1 million rands. And the dilemma is that some of the actual projections are not done on the basis of rand terms. They are done on the basis of euros and dollars, and then we have to convert, and then it shoots the figures through the roof. So there's certainly a need for us to actually look at that. I certainly hold the view that if you're coming into the country, there have to be terms and conditions to your visa, including but not limited to you having insurance. There's no negotiation about that, and I made this point very clear to the board when we met for our AGM. Chair, the other issue we need to fundamentally deal with is the key question of culpability versus accountability and liability, insofar as the whole claims are concerned, in order to deal again with the liabilities which the Road Accident Fund is confronted with. Chair, however, I think here one must be very clear, as I was earlier on. It remains the position of the ministry that after 3 court judgments against the RAF on the accounting standard matter, that continuing on the path of appeals would be reckless and irresponsible, and not in the collective interests of the Road Accident Fund. Nobody is against changes in the accounting standards, but it has to follow the parameters of due process. And in this case, that has not happened. So I think we must not play a finder-finder on that one. The RAF, in our view, we expect it to comply with the court judgments, and we expect it to comply with the findings of the AG. That does not mean parallel to that, a process must not unfold for the purposes of a change of an accounting standard, if so deemed necessary. But what we do not want is an RAF that is living in courts, and I want to reiterate a letter by former Minister Mbalula, actually, on the 4th of October 2022, written to the previous scoper, indicating that that administration had put it to rest that it is not desirable for them to be in court. That position stands. And we are of the view, Chairperson, that we cannot be selective in what we accept from the AG and say, no, if they say the right things and the nice things, then we agree. And when they don't say the things that we want to hear, then that it's otherwise. Similarly with the courts. You've got individuals when the court finds in their favor, the courts are great. When the courts don't find in their favor, then we begin casting all sorts of aspersions. There has to be a semblance of principle, which is the yardstick measure of what we do and how we do things. And as far as we are concerned, an audit outcome is the basis or the North Star about how we respond to the challenges. We have got every intention, Chairperson, to give REF the necessary support for it to do the right things and fulfill what it's expected to fulfill. There's no ambiguity about that. But I want to put it to Chair and this committee on the record that we are not in agreement with the direction that is being taken insofar as this matter of the accounting standard is concerned. And that is not prejudiced by anything else other than the fact that the journey traversed so far indicates, even through the legal system, that it is not a viable and sustainable path. Why should we continue on it when we should actually be focusing on finding ways and means through consultative processes and engagements? And I say, Chair, what I said in the beginning, any changes required must follow a legislative review. And that is the commitment that we are placing on the table, that is the exercise we are engaged in. I've already asked the DG and the DDG that we begin a process of putting together the technical team to make sure that we bring the necessary knowledge, skills, and expertise required. But, Chair, this court action and any further court action is a red line for the ministry, and we will not accept that it continues. But as Chair, as I'm saying, I received the response of the board chairperson last night, and we will continue with the process. But what I want to conclude by saying, Chairperson, is this. is that we all have a duty to assist the Road Accident Fund honestly and correctly. And what is not right is to cast aspersions on the process, because we don't assist the Road Accident Fund. And as far as I understand it, Chairperson, you cannot be receiving the same audit outcome on the same issue. And when the AG says that they can't alter an outcome, that's correct. Did the mediation processes break down? They did. But simply on the basis that everybody didn't do what they were supposed to do. So I'm pretty concerned to say that it in future it would be beneficial not to quote letters that are not yours in a meeting, to quote from letters that were not written to you in the question and answer session. I'll leave it at that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Minister. I do not want to get into trouble with the actual Minister herself. I also want to welcome you, Honourable Chair of the Portfolio Committee on Transport. Thank you very much for joining us. We are heading towards a conclusion. I had said that I am going to ask some questions premised on the presentation. I also want to say to the Road Accident Fund that, and I will have some comments for you, Honourable Deputy Minister, at the end when I conclude, for you to take note of. But I am going to now ask my own questions, which are premised on the presentation itself. Various aspects there. They are largely clarity-seeking questions. And so I only dealt with the matter of the accounting standard earlier on. I am now going to proceed with parts of the presentation, if that is okay. Can we go to the slide that has? I'm just going to look here so that I can. Slide number, financial performance, statement of financial performance, the one that starts with revenue from exchange transactions, investment revenue and other income. Can you see that? 2020, 63 million, 160 million, 223 million, 286 million, 702 million. Can you give me a breakdown of what's contained in those investments? I just want to get a sense of what are the components of that investment revenue and other income? Do you, I just want to know.
It's interest.
What form does it take?
In interest, Chair.
It's interest and on cash sitting in a bank somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have no other investment?
Yeah.
Am I correct to read that? So let's go back to, in fact, not go back, net fuel levies. It would appear to me that what you said earlier was true, in that you have not been granted an inflationary increase on your levies from SARS, so the fuel levy, right? So it's probably at 2012-13 levels, if that. So I recognize a shortfall, but what it also tells me is that your transfers from the fuel levy have been constant.
At least it's not the 2013, it's the last 3 years, Chair. Sure. Yeah, since.
But also, I mean, in substance, they haven't given you much of an increase at all, really, actually.
Yes, nothing for 3 years.
For 3 years, I agree. It's apparent from what I can see. But I also notice, if I look at the row before, that the amount of cash that you have sitting in the bank has also increased, notwithstanding the fact that you have not had an increase in transfers. Would that be correct? Because if it's purely interest, in other words, there's no other investment instrument that you are using, I can assume that this is in a call account. Would it be a call account?
Yes.
Okay. So the money is in a call account. In order to earn an escalating interest, as we see that, the amount of money that is sitting in the call account has to correspondingly increase. Would that be correct?
Yeah, the balance that you keep will correspondingly increase, Chair.
Okay, so Road Accident Fund has, notwithstanding the fact that you're not getting any better support financially from the National Treasury, managed to have an increasing amount of money sitting in the bank such that you've got that amount of interest. How are you doing on your claims? The period you inform the committee is 180 days, is it not? Or is it 120? Which one applies currently?
It's 120 days, Chair, of after the settlement has been reached or the court order.
What percentage of your claims due falls outside of that stipulated period? In other words, which claims are you behind your schedule of what that stipulated period? So how many claims, what percentage of claims or the quantum begins at 181 days and onwards that still have not been settled? Do you have that to hand? If not, you can send to us in writing.
Yeah, I think we might have to send it in writing. We don't have it here, Chair, but it must be quite a small amount of claims.
All right. Now, I would be careful about saying that before you send it to us. So protect yourself by just sending it to us, right? So the amount of claims that are that are older than that much. I would hope so, given how much money is accumulating in your bank account. I certainly would. Because what that tells us, what you are telling us with your answers that you've given, is that you are by and large meeting the deadlines by which you must pay your claims. Is that your statement to the committee in substance?
Yes, in 180 days, yes. Save for, Chair, the ones where most of the time the people did not adhere to the requirements for the payments.
Okay, I'm going to come to that, Mr. Litsualo, actually, but thank you for noting it. So can you please make a submission in writing? So please take a note. We want that information in writing. Do you know the extent of your default judgments that you have against you as a road accident fund?
Yeah, we do, Chair. The ones that are reported to us, yeah, we know.
Okay. Will you please, if you know off the top of your head, can you give us a number, 2 numbers, if you have? But if you don't, I don't expect you to know this off the top of your head. How many and what the total value thereof is?
I don't have the number, Chair. We can provide that number.
Okay.
Yes, my apologies on that question, if I may, because I think one must assist here in that we are already in the process of engaging with the Department of Justice on key areas of assistance to REF-related matters, whether through the establishment of a special tribunal with the status of a high court or through decentralization mechanisms or the, what do you call it, the independent adjudicator, that's the term that REF has, so that we can be in a position then to deal with the issue around default judgments and court-related matters. So I just thought I should add that aspect, that in light of what you are saying on default judgment, there's an intervention on our part to make sure that we're working with DOJ to sort of begin resolving that particular matter. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. Look, that's certainly a step, both the Road Accident Fund and the medical legal claims process and so on. Something needs to give there. And it relates to something the Chief Executive said about the amount of money that lawyers make just merely out of the process, of engaging in the process to arrive at an administrative decision at the end is unconscionable. That money should go to beneficiaries, claimants, and so on. I'm in full agreement with that, and I hope that it is expedited as soon as we can. So please finish us with that information. I'd like to know, the committee members to know the extent of the default judgments. You have, I really hope it's a small number, so that we can get the comfort that some of what we may perceive to be a positive by the amount of money accumulating in the bank does not have a correlative adverse effect on some of your own mandate, which is getting money out. My assumption would be, given how little you get from the fuel levy, and I support you, I agree, you should get more, that I would expect you to be struggling to keep your bank account alive. But at the end of each year, that appears to be accumulating. Can we go to the slide about the vetting of officials? It wasn't quite clear to me, and I want to get some clarity from you, colleagues. Can the committee assume that everybody whose name appears there is, now let me put it this way, everybody whose name appears on this list has been, everybody's name, okay, let me start here. Is that the entirety of your executive committee? Is that everybody?
No, Chair, my name is not there.
Which other roles are not there? The names are not necessary at this point. I just want the roles.
Yeah, well, the roles will be the ones where we have got the vacancies, and mine is not there. Most of them are there.
Please name those roles.
The CEO is not there. The Chief Claims Officer is not there. The Chief Investment Officer is not there. The Chief Corporate Support Officer is not there.
Right. So let me start here then. Is it correct to say people who are acting in role have the full authority to perform the duties that come with that role?
Absolutely, Chair.
Are those people being vetted in any way? The active people in acting roles?
No, Chair. They would be vetted in the ordinary course of them being employed at RAF for that reason, and not as executives.
Would I be wrong, Mr. Litsualo, in assuming that the vetting is meant to manage a risk? It's not to determine whether someone should be employed permanently or not. It's to manage the risk that you have a person who's inappropriate in role. That they're acting or not acting should be immaterial, especially when, because that's going to be my next question. I want to know who's been acting for how long, right? So in other words, as we've seen in these state entities, people can act for a year, 2 years, however long. So is it your assertion that as far as you are concerned, and you, board chair, because you've got an oversight role, if somebody is in an acting role in an institution, they don't need to be vetted in a critical position? Would that, in fact, let me ask the board chair.
Chair, in terms of risk management, it's not right, it's not correct, because you're right by saying you're managing a risk. So a person in that role should be vetted. So I do agree with you. But there's other dynamics that happen because people start avoiding, because you still have to ensure that the person accepts in that acting position. But in principle, it's a risk and they should be vetted. So I do agree with you.
Chair, how many people again are in executives, are in acting roles? So the Chief Claims Officer, the Chief Corporate Support Services, Chief Corporate Support Officer, similar role. The Chief Compliance, the Chief Claims Officer, what other role? What is the other? Anyway, there are several roles on the executive committee where people are acting with full authority, no vetting. I don't think that should be acceptable. On average, how long have those people been acting? What is your vacancy rate in, with this, not rate, but the length of time it takes you to fill those roles?
Chair, it would depend. I think One must understand that these positions necessarily came into being only, I think, a year or when was the final? A year and a half ago. Because we were going through a restructuring and some of these positions became new positions.
So has it been 6 months, a year?
A year at least.
Okay, people have been acting in role for a year, critical positions, full authority, not vetted, not submitted for vetting, because I'm working by the list that you've given there. Would that be correct?
Yes, that's correct, Chair.
So your name also doesn't appear there. I'm assuming that you've been vetted.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So that's an issue. Again, I don't want to hold us up. I am really interested in a written submission. So the committee secretary will ask further questions, but clearly the vetting of officials is an issue. You mentioned a chief investment officer. Do you have a treasurer at the Road Accident Fund?
Yes, Chair.
You also have a chief investment officer?
Yes, a different position, yeah.
Okay. My understanding, and I may be wrong, is that to the extent that there needs to be management of the organization's own resources, own funds, the management of bank accounts and that kind of thing, because I'm assuming, and you said yourself, that the only investment income you have, interest income, is a call account. Is it the role of that person to simply oversee that call account? The chief investment officer, do they only oversee the call account and not the treasurer? They've got to have something they're doing there. What are they investing?
Chair, which is why this position is still sitting in the way that it sits, and someone would just simply act on it. We wouldn't have a thing, because the thinking was that at some point, when we start to be paying in installments, there would be a need to do a proper asset liability matching, which must meet that. And that's not only what people do oversee a call account, so to say. So there is a process of doing what is called cash flow ladders that must tell you at what time you would need what money, and then tranche it accordingly and know how much cash you would need at a particular point in time. And you must also do other things on an actuarial basis. So there's a lot of work that that person is doing. It's not only managing a call account.
Is there legislation right now or similar that authorizes or forces the Road Accident Fund to pay in installments?
Yes, there is.
Are you currently paying anybody in installments?
No.
Okay. Who oversees the call account?
The treasurer together with the CFO.
Okay, so this is going to be the chief investment officer role is going to be an area of ongoing conversations between us. So we don't need to ventilate everything here, but it's going to be an area because people need to have a role that they're doing. And maybe in your submissions, you will satisfy the committee that that person actually has a job to do. But right now, the only investment that's taking place at the Road Accident Fund is a call account. And that call account, I'm assuming, is managed by the treasurer.
Chair, there's a lot of processes that we are undergoing as a transforming organization. It must be understood in that respect. But with respect, Chair, there are roles that we run as I am the CEO, and there are certain decisions that we take. Part of it is to develop is organizational development, which includes developing a structure for an organization. that process continues to be an iterative process where certain aspects and the work keeps on being done as we proceed going forward. For instance, this person who is an investment officer chair is seized with the development of what we call the formulae. This is the development of a formula to make sure that we standardize the benefits across, meaning if me and you were earning the same amount, we don't want it to depend on which lawyer we get. We are working on that. So there's a lot of work that we are doing. We are doing investment policies, we are doing strategies that are associated with that. So this person does a lot of work. So we'll give you that, Chair. But I think it's also important that we are also given space as executives to exercise our roles as executive. We wouldn't want a situation where the oversight body would then determine how we structure the organization. I think that would be wrong. It must be understood in that space. So whatever we share, we'll share those things, and we might disagree as to what you view as the role of the investment officer and what we view as the chief investment officer. Because for obvious reasons, as different people having different experiences, we may not come to the same conclusion, Chair.
I'd be careful about using the word disagree, Mr. Litswalo. We might convince us. So let's not go there. So that's going to be an area of inquiry. The area of claims. Do you have a chief information officer at the Road Accident Fund?
Chief Information Officer.
CIO, Chief Information Officer. Did I miss? Not here. Do you have a Chief Information Officer?
No, we have got someone who's responsible for transformation, digital transformation, and that person reports to the Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer. That deals with IT, if you want to put it in that sense.
Yes, that's important. I'll tell you why. The quality of the data that you have. So there's several matters that usually come out of audits. The level of security in the system, whether the organization is fortified against cyber attacks and that kind of thing. The management of electronic data is important. The ability to synthesize and analyze to assist your claims processes and so on. So we are going to have a conversation around that. We don't need to ventilate all of those issues. So the chief information officer, the person, there's no chief information officer. The person who performs that role in substance reports to Mr. Patuchedzo Lukwarin. That would be correct.
Yes, the person that deals with, which is the head of digital transformation.
Who's the chief claims officer at the Road Accident Fund at the moment?
I am.
You're acting in that role?
I am assuming that I can't act in that role, Chair, but I do the main work there. So
the chief claims officer role has been done away with officially?
No, Chair. We have been trying to fill this position. I think we have advertised and interviewed more than 3 times. So we are still looking for that person.
Okay, that's also good. And so the vacancies in general, the vetting of the people that are acting in those roles is an issue that we're going to need to deal with, because members cannot raise SCM issues here and then we also don't talk about the vetting of all of the executives. So it's got to be a comprehensive process, but we will have that conversation in our future engagements, right? So those were the questions from me for now. What I will do, and there's going to be, so I will engage with the minister and the deputy minister. What I want to do, and I wish to assure you, Mr. Litswalo, believe me of all people with my background, the last thing I want is for members here to interfere in operational matters. The reason I invite ministers to come by themselves is to stop this conflation and asking ministers operational questions and that sort of thing. So believe me, what I'm about to say now is not going there. Don't have that anxiety. There is a board that oversees what the executives do. This committee will hold the minister and deputy minister for all of these things we're talking about with the legislation and the faults and so on. The person who's going to be in the pen is the deputy minister. He must make things happen for you, together with the minister, to solve some of these things. We're not going to bother you with those issues. The board and management will bother the board with governance and oversight matters and the executive with executive matters, so that the lines are clear. So that's not where I'm going with these questions. In order for our interactions to be qualitative and not long like today, we are going to need certain information ahead of time. It's part of that process Honorable Pelose was talking about, which is an extended induction in education and so on, so that we can get to concise questions when we're dealing with one another. We will provide you with guidance on a comprehensive presentation to make to the committee in future that deals with the matters we've raised, as well as any issues that we correspond through the ministry between ourselves, as information that we prepare in a pack for the members so that we can engage on these matters properly. Right, so those are the questions from my perspective. Where I'd like us to get to, Honourable Deputy Minister, Board Chair, and Mr. Litsualo as the Chief Executive. Here's my attitude: I'm here to help all of you. When the policies reflect what the honourable members are saying should accrue to the South African people, you've got a strong ally. We will support you as a committee, and I think the committee members want the same. Matters of board oversight, similarly, we will support the board. I know that in some cases, members sit in one committee, deny an entity budget, and then come and sit here and ask an executive, why didn't you do the thing we didn't give you money for last week? I am going to hold the members accountable to that. I refuse to let them off the hook when they do that. So which is why I recognize that the money that you are getting is not enough. I recognize the funding model is inappropriate, all of these things. So like I said, the facts are the facts. We must stick to the facts but solve the problem. And finally for you, as the executive team at the Road Accident Fund, you have our support in meeting your mandate. But for all of 3 levels of accountability, there's got to be clarity on who does what the appropriate targets are, and how we get to an entity whose finances are healthy, whose governance systems are proper, and there's a link between that and the benefits that the South African people get to. The Honourable Chair of the Transport Portfolio Committee is here, and on policy matters we will not interfere, but him and I will work together to get our respective committees to make sure that we help you where we need to help you. And there's accountability where there needs to be accountability. Like I said, we're not here to get people. We're here to solve the problem. So that's all from me for now. I don't know if the members have any follow-up questions, but we are going to have a follow-on conversation. Can I ask that we are concise, we specify who the question is for, and I will give an opportunity to the board chair, Mr. Litsualo, and the Honourable Deputy Minister to deal with those matters, and then we leave it here. Thank you. Concise, please. Otherwise, you're going to make me a liar when I said we're going to leave on time. Thank you. Honourable Skosan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to respond, obviously, and politically so as well, because the Deputy Minister chose to respond politically. And on that one, I'm not going to mince my word on that. To say one cannot cast aspersions and say things which are not factually. I'm not going to come here and talk about things which are not factually. That should be very clear. I'm not blaming at all. What I said here, I'm going to emphasize on that. When I said that the issue of the Constitution And when the CEO was briefing us that, unfortunately, as members of parliament, we have to resolve these matters in parliament. The constitution is not serving our people, it's a fact. And those who believe that this constitution serves the poor people should say so, it's fine. But they should not be insulting us. Some of us who believe that the constitution is not serving our people, in particular the poor. And I know, because some of us, we read as well. I'm not sure, CEO, whether are you still safe? Because the last time I was at REF, because some of us do oversight as well, the CEO's life was threatened with death, like some of us. And we should not take things, as if courts or AGs are alpha and omega. And this country, the constitution allow any institution to go to the highest court in the land. We cannot say that, no, you have already exhausted the courts, this thing of court. If the institution feels that they have to take the matter to the highest court in the land, so be it. Every institution, every department has done that before. Why this department, why this entity is being subjected to be saying, no, there's 3 findings, therefore, no, you should cut your losses. You can go to the highest court if need be. That's why we have a lower court and the highest court in the land. So it cannot be right to intimidate the CEO to say, you cannot go to the high court, to the constitutional court, or to go to the Supreme Court of Appeal. It's completely wrong. And if we as members, we are not protecting the institution, then we should not be here. Then the executive should do as they please and get involved in administrative matters. It cannot be right. And we should not intimidate anybody.
Will you wrap up, Honorable Scosa?
I'll wrap up. I'm saying here, the CEO has explained to us, Section 19, he quoted Section 19, I remember very, very, very well, to say if we want lawyers to milk this institution, the executive should say so. The CEO must pack his bag and go home if he's not going to protect the poor of this country. Because they are in a cold phase. They are dealing with these matters daily. And I'm saying there's not even a court or an AG, which is alpha and omega. Once they say something, then, you know what, we must fold our arms and not question them. If in this court, we question courts as well.
You're repeating the point.
Yeah,
and we
I'm saying
that
I want
to
to
make short comments, please.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I understand that,
lose
Chair.
the meeting.
Chair,
Please.
I understand that. I know that you had time. You know, I needed more time, but it's fine. Maybe next time I'll get more time. But really, I'm irritated when in a meeting, then somebody say we cast aspersion, you don't have facts. I'm not going to allow that. People's lives are at stake here. Some of us were being intimidated as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Kubeka.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, a few comments and some questions for me, specifically to, like you said, we must direct them to specific people. I would like to direct this first question and the second question to the CEO, Mr. Letswalo. Earlier on, when he was giving us a background of what happened at RAF and how they arrived where they are now as RAF, he told us that in 1946, yes, it was 1946, basically RAF was opened and it was based on common law principles. The question there is, in 1946, were black people allowed to claim from RAF? And then again in 1986, RAF collapsed and for 5 months, and then it was revived again. And then after it was revived, were black people then allowed to claim from RAF? And then another question is, up until 2008, public passengers were not allowed to claim. And I know when they say public passengers, that's mostly black people that they're talking about, black people who would be mostly in taxis and so on. How much they were allowed to claim only up to 25,000 rands back then, up until 2008. How much are they allowed to claim now? Is the next question. And the next one is, how do we help RAF criminalize lawyers who swindle money from our people? Because from what the CEO was saying, again, in Section 19C, which basically says that you must have a lawyer, and which is what lawyers are now using to exploit our people. How do we help the lawyers that do actually criminalize our people? How do we help RAF criminalize and even go as far as prosecuting people? I think that one we can actually discuss and liaise and see how we would get to that. And I think this one now is for the minister. I think it's more a comment on considerations when moving from road to rail. I think, Minister, we really need to look at the loss of finance that would occur there. I agree with you on that one. And then I would like to disagree with Minister here, or Deputy Minister here. And I do believe, Mr. Lotwalo, stay in court. Stay the course. RAF needs to be in court for as long as yourself as the CEO and the board deem the outcomes of the lesser courts to not be favorable or conducive to the entity. Stay the course. I do agree. I would like to really agree with the Deputy Minister when he says you have gotten one or two lesser judgments from the lesser courts, and if you feel that that is not enough, go the whole course. Stay the course. That's what you are there for as a CEO, and if your board supports you, stay the course, please. That we realize and we know, or some of us realize and some of us know, that you're doing this for our people. So stay the course, fight the good fight. And then on that same one, I think, like my colleague here said, other entities, they go to court when the courts that they've approached do not agree with them. Like here, for instance, there's another one that was very contentious not too long ago. In Parliament. Parliament made a decision. Some people took Parliament to court. Why should RAF be different? I don't get it. So please, CEO, fight the good fight. Take all of these judgments and or legal issues to the highest courts if you have to. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Esak, do you have anything to say?
Chairperson, I promise you I will be concise. Okay.
Please.
I have no plans to get emotionally
Thank you.
caught up here.
Please proceed.
Deputy Minister, with due respect to you, we've been sitting here like for what? 4 hours, 5 hours nearly going. And I just want to say this with due respect to you, sir. And perhaps you can point this out to the rest of your colleagues. And, you know, I read up somewhere that over and above everything we've listened to today, it says here, the Public Finance Management Act remains the primary legislation, sir, that classifies and prescribes the accounting framework to be applied by the Road Accident Fund as a Schedule 3A public entity, unquote. So in all the discussions we've had, with due respect, ladies and gentlemen, nobody has ever mentioned the PFMA. How come? In spite of everything that's been pointed out, that is what I would like to understand, because I think as members of the committee and as institutions of parliament, first and foremost, we're prescribed by the PFMA. I think you'd know that too, sir. So that's the one point I've made, sir. And yeah, you know, looking at all these court cases and the 10.7 million rand that's been expended thus far, you've just had a colleague of mine saying, stay the course, keep on going to court. Have you considered the way forward? should your last Deputy Minister, and I trust you will carry this message through to the board. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Esak. Honorable Skosana, do you have any final comments?
Yeah, just one comment, Honorable Chair. From what the Deputy Minister has said, I think he will correct me if I've heard him wrong. I think from what the Deputy Minister said, I understood him to be saying that RAF can proceed with their court processes. However, that should not hamstring the entity in terms of being accountable and doing their work. So they should not be stuck with the processes of court that they then take off their eyes from the ball. They should focus on their work, being accountable, serve our people, while at the same time they are pursuing that. Not unless maybe I did not understand him well.
So I think what he said is exactly the same. What the Honorable Deputy Minister said is exactly the same what Honorable Maduna said. In substance, what I understood them to be saying is that if the Road Accident Fund is unhappy with the applicable standard, they can litigate. However, until the courts decide otherwise, comply with what you need to comply with now. It's not to say don't do it, it's to say until the courts say otherwise, follow the rules as they are.
Chair, Chair,
no, hang on.
Chair, the minister will answer for, the Deputy Minister will answer for himself.
Okay,
please, guys.
That's fine. Honorable Skosana, that's what I understood the member and the minister to be saying.
Yeah, Chair. Yeah, Honorable Chair. No, I was not answering for the minister, but I wanted us to find that balance, which I thought, in my view, it is important. And I think I understood him in the same manner that you understood him, Chair. And I think that's a correct view, and I'm agreeing with the minister on that. That for as long as the RAF, the board, and the CEO feels that they should pursue the matter, I agree with that. But while you are doing so, because for now there's a pronouncement of a court, which we should adhere to, while you are still pursuing the matter further, but we should be able to adhere to what the court for now has said, while we are still pursuing it with other court processes. So I'm agreeing with the Deputy Minister on that. So I wanted us to put that into correct context. Thank you very much, Chair.
All right. Honorable Atkinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I just want to make a couple of comments because I think some inaccuracies have been made today, or have been said today, which kind of put a particular line. And the one is that issue about the 500 million rand claim from the Swiss. That apparently was 16 years ago. And apparently the legislation has been changed. There's actually a cap in place now, so that cannot happen again. I agree with you, Minister, the fact that our visa regulations need to be changed, and that when people come to the country, they need to be able to have their own insurance, and that probably should be excluded from the future. But I think there's this bogeyman that's been put in the air there about foreigners making claims, and the 500 million. As I said, that was 16 years ago, and the law has been changed since then. And then the second point as well is this issue about lawyers. Okay, I'm not a lawyer myself. When a person comes to make a claim at RAF, I believe it's quite a complicated process. So if we talk about excluding poor people, we're excluding them because of the complication of the process, okay? So quite often they can't get something through unless they've actually got a lawyer involved. And I'm sure all of us have some knowledge of law and we understand the basis of lawyers working off contingency, okay? So where a lawyer will not charge you upfront, but will take a percentage of your claim if it's successful, okay? So the lawyer himself is putting time and effort and money, and he might actually get zero out of it if the claim doesn't go through. But at the end, he benefits and benefits quite generously if the thing does go through. So as a poor person, is it better to take 75% of a very large amount of money or 100% of nothing? I think that's what we all need to think about as well. So yes, I do understand that there's a little of a populist view, that lawyers are rich and they're taking money out of the fund and everything. But at the end of the day, it might actually be the only route for a lot of poor people to go on a contingency basis with lawyers, and to be able to get the advantage of a settlement from the fund in that way. And then the third point I want to make is just this issue that the CEO mentioned, the fact about looking after the kitty, that obviously there's a limited amount of money in there, it's money that comes from the levy. And at the end of the day, I think the really important thing here is that's not your sole responsibility. It's actually the responsibility of the minister and the government as to decide what to do. So if this fund has been run in the proper way and the correct amount of liabilities are being accepted and people can get a clear view of what that is, it's actually up to the government and the Department of Transport to decide how this thing will be funded, okay? Whether the road accident levy is enough, whether it needs to be increased, or whether money needs to be found from other sources of government. So I think your responsibility is to pay the claims as are mandated in the law and by statute. And at the end of the day, it's the minister and the government that need to decide how to come up with that money to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Matlala.
Thank you, Chair. I think mine would be just comments at this point. I had said everything I wanted to say. But CEO, I want to just say I agree with you on a lot of things. One, exclude the rich from the scheme. Cut the lawyers out. You see, what we stand to represent here are the poor people of this country. And without having to rhetoric and mention semantics and try to sound smart, the reality of the matter is that the people should be benefiting directly from the fund. The issue of the legalities and the branding is what is in our minds, not in the hearts of the people on the ground and what they want. The inability of the government of national unity to mitigate the issue between their departments is not part of my problems. But I agree with you, and I want to check with you where that bill is, because you said there was a bill that was proposed with amendments that seeks to resolve some of these problems. And that is a bill that I would obviously lobby my party that will resuscitate. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Maduna. You've landed.
I'm well covered, Chair, by honorable members.
Honorable Blose, you've also landed.
No, Church, I have, but just a comment. I can't resist. I think for the record, Chair, we ought to register that the biggest beneficiary of RAF is a white person from Switzerland who mixed this entity of 500 million. And the Deputy Minister, when he's responding, he must tell us about this reform that has been changed and the cap. Because seated here, I'm not aware of that. So if there was a legislative change, the Deputy Minister must advise us on that, and so that, because we must not be misled. In fact, the Deputy Minister even gave us other white people who are taking 102 million and all of that. And our people are really not benefiting from this thing. So that's why there are so many emotions. CEO, pay. Yeah, because you can see who this money is going to. Our people are not benefiting in this thing. And then we are going to ventilate it in our strategy committee. And then we'll, fortunately for me personally, I also sit in transport. So the beneficiaries of this scheme are in trouble. We are here to make those changes. Thank you.
I'm going to get you out of that committee so that you always hear. I am fighting with your political parties, by the way. I am fighting. This business of people missing SCOPA meetings, I don't like it. I want to have my people here all the time. Please. So, please, Honorable Kupeka, please be short, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, can CEO answer this? He said something. Foreigners can be here illegally, but constitutionally. Please, I need clarity on that one. I don't understand that.
Thank you. So that we do not operate in the realm of statements. In that submission, one of the things that the Secretariat, Mr. Litswalo, and you, Board Chair, will ask you, give us a breakdown of the beneficiaries. Do you keep that information by race? Do you do that? because Parliament must always operate on the basis of facts. Do you note down the racial composition of the claimants who get paid out?
We don't necessarily do that, but it's possible to do it, Chair. But we'll give it a bite at it. But let's agree that we know who earns the most in this country.
No, Mr. Lutolo, I'm asking you a different question.
No, I'm just saying, Chair, the reality is this. I mean, I've been asked a question about 1946 and all that. All I'm saying is that where we sit, most of the people that come to us come through lawyers, so it's not very easy to determine whether these people are black or white.
No. So I'm saying I'm going to give you the board chair and the deputy minister to deal with all of the comments of the members. Me, as the chair, I'm asking you a different question. And that question is, do you have information you can furnish the committee with that provides a racial breakdown of the beneficiaries? It's a simple question.
Not at this point, Chair.
Thank you. That's all I was asking. No, Honorable Skosana, please, I've given you a chance.
Yeah, but Chair, I complained the last time you are doing the same thing. You gave Mr. Gubega a second bite. I just want to say something, and you are preventing me again.
So Honorable Skosana.
No, it's fine.
So, honorable members, this is what I'm going to do as a rule. No second bites from now on. Not ever. Thank you. Okay, that's it. Because I try and be...
With due respect, but that's not fair. I mean, Mr. Skosana,
No, I really try. It's a mistake. It's a mistake that I admit. No second bites. You ask your questions when you get your initial chance. So this business of one last thing, Chair, is over.
Mr. Skosana can move to the transport.
Can I give, please? Can I give?
I was not answered, but I'm saying I was not answered.
No, so which question was not? Which question was not?
The question which you ask yourself now.
No.
Listen to me.
No,
Chair.
they're going to answer it.
Chair, listen to me. I ask about the people who are paid, the lawyers who are paid the 10+ million rand, whether racially so, as you ask. I said we need those names. And I'm asking once again, because we've got an issue here. We should not beat about the bush and try to protect what we know exactly what is happening. So my follow-up question was that. And I think when the CEO was responding to all our questions, and I said, you know what, he explained to everyone, he answered everyone. But this question which I asked, unless you know, I don't know.
No, Honorable Son, I don't want to have an argument. When Mr. Litswalo finished, I did this. I said, you've answered everyone. I looked at the members. Yes. And I said, and you name-checked each one, and I complimented him for it. You did not say anything at that point. So
I could not say anything because you were talking, Chair. That's why I'm raising it now.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Skosana. Can I then, I'll give you, Mr. Litswalo, the opportunity to make give concise answers to the members. And then I will do the board chair closing and then the Honorable Deputy Minister closing, and that's it.
No, thanks, Chair. We were told that any person, as defined in the RAF Act, includes illegal immigrants. And that's why if the RAF Act says any person injured on the road, it includes illegal immigrants. And our fight was about the Immigration Act, saying we can't aid and abet an illegal foreigner. And the court found against us. And that's why we have appealed that. And that's why we are saying, the judge was saying, you are here illegally constitutional. So that's the context. Now, Chair,